Now we will look at the admin functions of Aurora. To log in, I use the login button, which is in the footer. So here, there are two ways to log in. Either I can use a username and a password, or I can use institutional SSO. If your institute has an institutional SSO using SAML or CAS, it can be integrated into Aurora. But right now, because this is a demo site, I'm going to use username and password to log in. So I put in my username and my password here and click on login. I'm now on the admin interface for Aurora. The admin interface looks very similar to the default Aurora website. It is the same website. As you can see, I landed on this page where you do have the website, but you have an additional admin toolbar at the top. And when I click on manage, it will show me all of the things that I can do within this repository. This is where most of your repository administrators will live and do their day-to-day work. Now, if I click on content, I go to the content landing page for the backend. And on this page, I can see all of the content that I have ingested into the repository. So all of the content in the repository is displayed here. It's paginated, so you can go through everything in the repository that has been ingested. From here, I can either edit objects or delete objects if I wanted to. Now, all of these are based on permissions. So you could have users who do not have delete permissions when they can add objects, edit objects, but not delete objects. You could restrict delete permissions to admins only. Now, if I click on edit, I would go to this form where I see all of the metadata for this object, and I can edit this here, add additional metadata, correct if anything was wrong. This form has all of the metadata fields in Aurora, which means by default, you get 55 fields here, and I will scroll through them so that you can see that there is a whole bunch of these fields here. And if I scroll down right to the bottom, you will see some system required fields. These fields determine the way this object will behave in the system. So the model field, for example, tells what kind of object this is, whether it's an image, a digital document, a compound object, etc. Member of adds this to a collection, a compound object, a book, or any other complex container type object. So I can add this to multiple collections from this member of tab. You then have access controls from where you can set what kind of access this object has for authenticated users or anonymous users. You can also restrict it to an IP range, the IP range that you've defined elsewhere, and only people from that IP range would be able to access these objects. You can select the display that will be used for this particular object, which means what viewer will be used to display this object. As you can see, Mirador is the default, but you could choose to use another viewer if you wanted to. If you have a PID, if you're migrating from another system and there was a PID in there, you can carry that over. If this object belongs to a collection or a page content and should appear in a specific order, you can also add a weight. The weight is automatically generated, but you can add a weight if you wanted to. You can also set an embargo date. So you can set the embargo date from here, and whenever this date has passed, the embargo will be lifted and your object will be publicly available. You can also create a non-published or a draft object, or you can publish it right away if you wanted to. Clicking on save will edit this particular object. And if I just scroll right back up, you will see that there are some things that are automatically added, which means a URL alias is automatically added. This is your persistent identifier for this object. which will be created when you edit this. Now you can add content also from the same screen. The same way that I edited content, if you click on add content, you can add content from here. So I will select repository item and you will see it's the exact same form. So the edit and the add forms are the same, and you can add content to the repository one by one using this form. But if you do want to bulk ingest content, for that, we have this tool called Aurora Workbench. So Aurora Workbench runs on your local systems. It interacts with the repository through an API. And the way it works is that you would get this tool running on your system. You will have a CSV file, which we will provide to you, which has all of these fields. You can fill out that CSV file and then either bulk create content, bulk edit content, or bulk delete content through the CSV file. As I said, it interacts with the system through an API, so it doesn't directly affect the system, which means you can do bulk ingest for any number of objects. I have seen up to 65,000 objects being ingested at a time. I would recommend that you create smaller batches so that it's more easy to find out if something went wrong or which batch had an error in it. Now we go back, we looked at how to add content, we also looked at how to edit and delete content. Now in Aurora, we also have control vocabulary fields. So for example, this resource type is a control vocabulary where you have to select from within this list. But you also have genre, where it is a type ahead kind of thing where you can select from a list. But if it doesn't exist, you can just create your own. So if I do album 2, which is not a pre-existing genre, it'll automatically create it when I save this field. Admins can go and see all of the control vocabulary terms from taxonomy. So you would go here and you would see all of the control vocabularies in the system. You can list these, see if any terms are available. You can add items here. You can also, for example, if I had person, now I have a list of names here. I can go and edit any of these if something went wrong. I can also create new ones directly. Also, if your control vocabulary has an authority source, you can add the authority source while creating the taxonomy. So while creating this, there's an authority source being added for physical form. And this is from mark form of item term. From the backend, while you can add content and administer content, you can also change the appearance of your site. You can adjust the color scheme of your site from here. You can select colors that are representative of your institute colors from here and change any of these. You can also change the logo from here so that this is your institute's logo, and then save this and it will automatically reflect in your repository right away. Now for roles and permissions and user accounts. In Islandora, we do not restrict the number of user accounts that you can have. Unlike some other software, you can have any number of user accounts here. So you can add any number of users. You would just need their email, give them some username, some password, and then save this. This will create a new user within the repository. You can see there are 3 current users right now, and you can create your own and give these logins to any number of users in your repository. You can also configure a few additional things here. So in search and metadata, you can configure meta tags for SEO of your website. You can configure, what the global URL is, title, description, anything that is required for SEO, you can configure it from here. You can also configure how often your sitemap is generated, what objects are available in the sitemap, and what it looks like. You can generate multiple sitemaps if you wanted to. You can also set URL redirects from one URL to another if you deleted something and you want people to be redirected to a different page after that. Google Analytics can be set from here. So if you have a GAID, you can go and set it here. Once you set it and save it, it'll automatically start tracking all of the events on your website. You can also adjust basic site settings like the name of the site, the subtitle or the slogan of your site, the email address by default. This is the email to which every email from the site will go to. You can change the front page if you wanted to and create your own front page. You can add IP ranges here for IP restricted content. You can whitelist IP ranges here, and these IP addresses would be able to view the IP restricted content. Now, if I go back to the add content page, one thing I did not show you was how to create pages other than repository items. These are static pages like about page, help page, policy pages for your website. These pages can be created using the basic page content types. If I click on basic page, I can add a title, and then I have a WYSIWYG editor where I can copy paste HTML and create a static page. You can add images if you want to. You can add quotes, you can add tables. Anything that you can do within an HTML editor, you can do here. You can just copy paste HTML, put it in here, and create beautiful looking static pages. People also use these pages to create exhibits sometimes. You can create exhibits where you put in a bunch of HTML, you embed objects from within your repository and create static exhibits to showcase repository items. If I go back to the homepage, you can add these links here at the top, and then users will be able to access them easily. Another thing that I want to show you is revisions. Whenever you make any changes in your content type, it gets logged. Anytime you make a change, it gets logged, and you can see who made what change and when. You can also revert to a previous version if you want to do, or delete a version if you want to. Everything that you do within the system with respect to metadata is tracked. This is great for preservation and for audit and provenance. You can also see if you're on an object, if it has any children. This does not, because it is an object. But if you were on a collection, you could see all of the children. Since this is an object, it would have parents instead, so you can see that it belongs to this collection. If I go inside of this collection, and here I am, I can actually see all of the children for this particular collection. Everything is available from your edit interface. From here, you can batch upload children, add more children, or reorder children if you wanted to. That's the admin interface for Aurora, where you can configure and customize a lot of things. So you do have a lot of flexibility here to configure and customize things within the system.